this is Kim, the Kiwi Health Detective, root cause and lifestyle medicine practitioner. And this week I'm delighted to be participating in the third edition of Podcastathon, where for 1 week more than 1,000 podcasts will highlight a charity of their choice. So I'll be sharing at the end the charity that I've chosen to support. Now, what am I going to talk about today? We are going to look at what is called Wei Qi. And Wei Qi means protective Qi. It is a type of Qi that we have in and around our body, which protects us physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, spiritually. It affects all parts of our being. And I always like to describe a human being as being a 5-star human. We have 5 core aspects which make us up. We have the physical body, which most people are pretty aware of. We have our mental body, which is all our thought processes, our memories, our patterns of consciousness, how we think, how we process information, our brain. Obviously, this is a very complex part of ourselves. And we have our emotional body, which is all to do with our feelings and our emotional responses and our emotional patterning. And we have our energy field, which is not really talked about a lot in Western medicine, but is absolutely the prime emphasis in Eastern medicine. Also in India, energy is called prana. In the Indian tradition, it's called chi or ki. In the Eastern tradition, in countries like China or Korea. And we have the spiritual aspect of ourselves. So we are a 5-star human. And when one studies acupuncture, which I only did for 6 months. Unfortunately, I was unable to finish my studies in acupuncture because I couldn't do that and run a clinic, and so I had to give it up. But in those 6 months, I learnt some very fascinating things about Qi, and I had no idea there were so many types of Qi in the body. For example, each organ has different Qi. So we have lung Qi and liver Qi and spleen Qi and stomach Qi. And each different organ has a different effect on Qi. So we're going to be talking about Wei Qi to introduce this concept of protective Qi and how this protective Qi is very connected with the lungs. And so the condition of our lungs will affect the condition of our protective Qi. Now, in light of what has gone on in the last 5 years and the fact that we've been dealing with respiratory illnesses, I think this is quite important and potentially quite useful. So I first came to understand protective Wei Qi through both my brief acupuncture studies, but more also through many, many years of studying Chinese medicine theory through studying Qigong. And in particular, I was introduced to this concept 25 years ago when I started to practice a meditation called the Inner Smile meditation, and I'll be putting a link in this episode to some more information about this meditation. But I started to learn and implement and use a meditation which was specifically designed to go into the different organs of the body and clear out toxicity. And mainly clear out the toxicity on an emotional level, which then has a positive knock-on effect on the physical condition of the body. Because if we're storing negative emotions inside our various organs, then that is going to have a detrimental effect on the biological functioning of that part of the body. So, for example, if we have a lot of built up and backed up anger and frustration, that will affect the liver. It gets stored in the liver. It affects the liver. It clogs up the liver. It stops the qi flowing naturally in the liver. and that will have an impact on how the liver functions biologically. So this is why it is so important to know how to clear our emotions, which is why I have all the programs that I have on my Emotional Alchemy Academy website, because that is all about how does one learn how to discharge negative emotions from the body. So, Wei Qi is this protective qi which is in and around our body. And in a more Western way of talking about around our body, we tend to talk about the aura. So if you've had any experience of energy healing, you will, I'm sure, have heard of the aura, the auric field. And if you want to learn from an absolute meister about the energy body, then check out, for example, Barbara Ann Brennan. She wrote a couple of books many years ago, which are still incredible. And there are many other books as well that you can check out. But we have many layers of energy beyond our physical body. And for example, our mental body, our emotional, astral body, etheric body, these are fields which stretch out beyond our physical body. And they can only really be seen with non-physical sight, so to speak. We don't tend to generally see them so much with our physical sight, but as we develop our senses and our spiritual senses, people can see these fields which stretch out beyond the physical body. And for example, you can also go and have a special photograph taken which shows these fields which are outside your physical body. Now, these fields are very important for our health, because if our mental body and our astral emotional body and our etheric body, these different fields which stretch beyond our physical body, if they're in a good condition, then we are much less likely to be affected by things emotionally or mentally or physically. In other words, we're going to stay healthier. But if our fields outside our body are not in a good condition, in other words, if we're having a lot of ups and downs emotionally, if we've got a lot of trauma still stored at an emotional level inside of us, if we've got a lot of unhealthy thinking habits and patterns, then that is going to affect these fields which sit beyond our physical body. They're going to weaken. They're going to have holes in them, so to speak. And that is going to affect our overall mental, emotional, and physical well-being. And it's so important to remember that whatever is affecting one part of ourselves, one part of our 5-star humanness, it's going to affect all other layers as well. You can't separate the effects. We tend to separate things when we describe them with our mind, but we are a totality. So if, for example, you're feeling physically sick, then you may notice that your mental state is not as good as it normally is. Your physical state is affecting your mental state, is affecting your emotional state. So our goal really to stay happy and healthy is to, or one way to help us stay happy and healthy is to have a strong aura, a strong auric field around ourselves. And that is what good, healthy Wei Qi will help us to do, this protective qi, which goes through and beyond our body. Now, interestingly enough, one of the ways that we can improve our Wei Qi is to work on our lung qi and to work on what will improve our lung qi, because our lungs are directly connected with our skin, which goes all around our body. It's called the tertiary organ of the lungs in Chinese medicine. So we have 5 major organ systems in Chinese medicine: the heart, the lungs, the liver, the kidneys, and the stomach, or rather the spleen. And these 5 major organ systems have a partner, so to speak. They have what is called a paired organ. So the heart is paired with the small intestine, The lungs are paired with the large intestine, the kidneys are paired with the bladder, the liver is paired with the gallbladder, and the spleen is paired with the stomach and the pancreas. So they work as a pair together. And then there is a tertiary organ for each of these 5 major and minor organs. And the tertiary organ of the lungs is the skin. Now, of course, from a physical level, our skin is what protects us. It protects everything inside our body. It is a protective sheath. But stretching beyond this, beyond the physical body, is our Wei Qi. And if we work directly on our lungs, which are connected with the skin, we can extend a strong field of energy beyond our body, which is our Wei Qi. So we can directly influence and improve our protective qi around our body through working on the lung qi. Of course, we can improve it through working on any aspect of ourselves, but I'm just mainly focusing right now on the direct connection between Wei Qi and lung qi. So how do we do this? How do we improve the quality of our lung qi in order to strengthen our protective Wei Qi? Well, one way is looking at and dealing with the emotions that are connected with the lungs. And the main emotion that affects the lungs and can weaken the lungs, so to speak, on an energetic and even physical level is sadness and grief. So we have different families of emotions, or we have the anger, frustration, resentment family, which relate with the liver and the gallbladder. But the lungs is all to do with sadness and grief. So if we are storing, either consciously or unconsciously, a whole heap of grief inside of us, it will tend to navigate to and accumulate in the lungs, and it can affect our lungs. And so one way that we can strengthen our lungs is to clear sadness and grief. And the opposite positive quality, which is called a virtue in Chinese medicine, of the lungs is courage. So the less sadness that we have inside of us, the more we're going to experience courage. And what we really mean by courage is the courage to be ourselves and the courage to be true to ourselves. The courage to be able to look in the mirror, which is the metal element, which is also connected with the lungs. The courage to look in the mirror and like ourselves and honor ourselves and be true to ourselves. So what we're looking for as we grow the virtuous energy inside of us is to increase and grow our self-respect and our integrity and an inner strength where we believe in ourselves and we trust ourselves. And the sacred animal which is associated with the lungs is the white tiger. So thinking or imagining a white tiger gives you immediately a visual of the kind of strength and energy that we're looking to have inside of us that relates with our lung energy. So how do we clear this sadness? Well, first of all, we need to become aware of, am I holding sadness inside of me? Are there things which I'm sad about? Or have I let go of things that I was sad about or that I was grieving over? Or am I still grief-stricken? Do I still store and hold sadness inside of me? And there are many ways that we can learn how to clear the emotion of sadness. Some of these things that we can very easily do for ourselves. Some of them we maybe need some help to process. But we need to look at clearing this sadness. And in the inner smile meditation, for example, what we do is we are guided to connect with this sadness and to smile to it, to fill it with smiling energy, and to love it and to accept it and to notice it and to validate it. And validation is one of the most important things that we need to do in order to transform negative emotional energy. Because what most people are doing is they're ignoring it and trying to push it away and push it under the carpet, but that doesn't work. It just still stays there. And the first thing that emotions need is to be validated. We just want to be acknowledged and validated without being judged. So this is something that you can start to do with any emotion in order to start dissipating it and dissolving it. So first of all, we acknowledge and find the sadness which is in our lungs and could also be in our large intestine. It could be in other places in the body too, but they just tend to gather, if you like, in these parts of the body. And then we can send courage to our lungs. We can start to feel courage and feel that energy in our lungs. Feel that strength. Feel the strength of the white tiger inside our lungs. And then we can spread that energy of the strength and the honesty and the ability to be our true self, the strength to be our true self. We can spread that energy out towards our skin, which goes around the whole of our body. We can send that energy and information to our skin. And then we can send it beyond the skin into the auric field and fill our aura or our auric field with this energy. Now, I did this in a smile meditation very, very dedicatedly for about 9 years. I did it nearly every day for 9 years. And I can tell you that I had very, very profound experiences with this meditation, as one will have with any meditation that one practices very regularly. And I came to be able to feel very clearly the strengthening of my aura and of my Wei Qi through doing this meditation, and in particular when I was doing the lung part of the meditation. Because when one is doing the inner smile meditation, one goes through the rest of the organs as well. But I'm only talking about the lungs for now. But I absolutely noticed that when I was working on my lungs with this meditation and clearing out the sadness and growing the courage of the white tiger and sending that energy to my skin and beyond the skin into my auric field, I absolutely could feel the change and the strengthening of my auric field or the Wei Qi. So I absolutely know that this is real and that it works. And another thing to add in about helping to clear the lungs and strengthen the lungs is that each organ has its ideal temperature. So just like we have the seasons in the year, we have summer and spring and autumn and winter, etc. Each organ has its ideal season and temperature. And so the season for the lungs is autumn. And autumn is when we let go of things, when the trees are letting go of their leaves, when things are calming down towards winter, which is a time to go inwards and replenish. And so we're letting go of the sadness and the grief, but we can also help by thinking of the season of autumn and the temperature of being cool. So not cold, that would be what the kidneys like. Cool mornings or evenings of autumn, which is what we're having right now in March in New Zealand as I record this. We have very nice cool morning and evening temperature. So this is the temperature that the lungs ideally like. So we can imagine this temperature in our lungs. And we can also imagine the color white, which is the color for the lung organ system in Chinese medicine. We can imagine a beautiful, pure white color in our lungs and filling our lungs. And we can also make a sound which can help vibrationally to improve the quality of our lungs. And the sound is a cross between a Z and an S. So something like zzz. You can do that sound and feel the vibration in your lungs as you're filling and imagining filling your lungs with white light, and imagine the strength and the courage in your lungs. And as you do this, this will help to strengthen your protective Wei Qi. So I hope this has been of interest. As I mentioned at the beginning, this podcast is dedicated to the third podcastathon. And the charity that I would like to mention, and in fact I'm going to mention two, are to do more with the spiritual, esoteric teachings that I highly recommend anybody check out if they're really seriously interested in understanding the spiritual side of life. And one website is makara.org, so that's makara.org. And the other one is esotericastrologer.org. And I highly recommend checking out Philip Lindsay's program on esotericastrologer.org called The Aquarian Mysteries. If you really want to understand what is going on in the bigger picture of humanity, check out The Aquarian Mysteries on esotericastrologer.org, and also go to makara.org, and they have many free weekly meditations and webinars which you can join. So, wishing you well for the rest of this week and ongoing. My name is Kim, the Kiwi Health Detective, root cause and lifestyle medicine practitioner.